Mm.
She is the last Black full-time
Columnist.
contributor, columnist for the Post. We also know that this was purchased by Jeff Bezos of Amazon. And although Amazon has really pulled all of us in and made it very convenient to shop from them, we we should start looking for some alternatives. If you spent $100 a month, maybe you can take it down to $20 a month until you wean yourself completely off. Because obviously they're using the gains from our shopping with them to oppress us. So first and foremost, when they bought the Post, one of the things they immediately did was they started to get rid of all of the columnists who in any way wrote anything that they felt was not complimentary of Donald Trump. We might remember that they decided for the first time in many decades, they decided not to endorse any candidate in the presidential election because they couldn't really full-throatedly come out at that point to endorse Trump, but they did not want to be seen as endorsing his opponents either. We also know that in terms of the sister's activism, that she was teaching a course through Columbia University, and they determined that it was too inflammatory, and so they cut that off, and she ended up providing that course for free. So they've had her in their crosshairs for a while. I think it's also noteworthy that she is of Ghanaian and Nigerian descent. So she was born here in the United States, but her ancestors are Nigerian and Ghanaian, and that certainly probably is possibly not anything that is working in her favor, at least from the viewpoint of white nationalists. And so very important that we keep finding other ways to get our messages out. You know, when I went to school many decades ago, the idea was for Black people in particular, I think many of us got this message. And if you did and you live here in the United States, or even in other African countries or countries run by that are predominantly Black, please put this in the chat. This would be interesting to see. One of the messages we got was get a good education so you could get a good government job. Because the idea were that these government jobs were quote unquote safer and you could climb up the ladder, so to speak, and your benefits were assured and so on and so forth. And many Black people followed that route. And we can see under the Trump administration this mass firing of Black people, and a good number of them Black women. I think the last figures I saw was something like 300,000 Black women have lost their jobs. And we're talking decent paying jobs here. And so the purge is on in every way. And so more than ever, this kind of article buttresses the importance of not just thinking that we are going to go into these spaces that white people have created for them and that somehow we are going to change things from the inside when the structure remains the same and the power base remains the same, right? And, you know, my claim to fame is I'm the first Black person in the here or the first Black person there. No, if we're not building our own, we don't own anything. And a long time ago, one of my mentors said this to me, and it was very sobering. And that is that you do not own anything you cannot protect. And it was so sobering for me because I was thinking about the African continent itself. And of course, we're going to get into more stories. If we are not in control, if we cannot protect what we say we own, do we really own it? Right? And so Karen Attiah, I know that she is going to continue to do great things with or without the Post. I do hope she sues them. And my understanding of the law, but then again, it's up to interpretation by the judges. But my understanding of the law and how it has been previously interpreted is that she has a good case here. Now, of course, they went on to look at her social media postings and to try to dissect that. And it's amazing again how she can lose her job for repeating the words of a human being who is now being honored. So if his words weren't worth repeating, why is he being honored, but I'm getting fired for repeating said words? But this is the country that we live in, and it's a clarion call. People, to the extent that you can, build your own, or like most of us, have your quote unquote side hustle and work to make that side hustle maybe your main hustle.